love to think about tech startups, right?
Hmm.
Like imagine you're pitching your big idea, you get the funding, and then your vision becomes reality.
Yeah.
That's what we're diving deep into today.
Awesome.
The South African tech scene has this brand new R300-Million fund,
Okay.
and it's really aiming to make those startup dreams come true.
Wow.
So we've got some excerpts here from the Creekbooks website
Okay.
and a transcript from a YouTube video on ENCA.
Cool. So, I mean, what grabs my attention right away is just how big this is.
Yeah.
R300-Million, that's not...
It's not nothing.
No, it's a real commitment to growing the tech sector in South Africa. But,
Yeah.
you know, the question is, how many startups can that realistically support?
That's a great question.
You know, to the point where they can actually be sustainable.
Right. We hear these big funding announcements, but what does it actually mean, like, on the ground?
Exactly.
So our sources are telling us that the fund aims to back at least 50 tech-driven startups. But where are those startups likely to come from?
Yeah.
Are there specific sectors in the South African tech scene that are, like, ready for this kind of boost?
Well, this is where things get interesting.
Okay.
So it's not just about the money. It's about, you know, who's behind it and what their goals are.
Okay.
We've got the South African SME Fund, the Department of Science and Innovation, it's Technology Innovation Agency,
Okay.
and then E2 Investments, which is an impact investor.
Wow.
So it's not like your typical venture capital thing.
Yeah.
This is a multi-sector effort, and they're specifically focused on transformation
Okay.
in addition to innovation.
So there are a lot of players at the table.
Yes.
It sounds like they're aiming for, you know, financial returns, but also some kind of social impact.
Right.
But what does transformation actually mean in this context?
Right.
Is it just a buzzword, or are there concrete plans to make South Africa's tech scene more inclusive and diverse?
Well, that's a critical question.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're serious about this transformation thing, we should see like a real effort to support entrepreneurs from backgrounds that have been historically disadvantaged. So that could mean, you know, targeted outreach programs or mentorship initiatives, or even like specific criteria for how the funds are allocated.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just say you're committed to diversity.
Right.
There has to be like mechanisms in place to make it actually happen.
And our sources mentioned this initiative is going to be using a fund-of-funds model.
Yeah.
Can you break that down a little for us?
Sure.
I get the basic idea.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about, like, the potential challenges.
Okay.
Is it the right approach in this context?
Well, it's definitely more complex than just like directly investing in startups.
Right.
A fund of funds means that they're going to be investing in other funds that are specifically focused on early stage tech companies.
Okay.
So on the plus side, this can spread the risk. And you can tap into the expertise of multiple fund managers. But it also raises some key questions.
Like what?
Well, how are they going to select those sub-funds?
Right.
What criteria will they use?
Yeah.
And how will they make sure that those sub-funds are aligned with the big goals of promoting innovation and transformation?
Right.
It's easy to lose sight of the big picture when you've got these multiple layers of investment.
So is there a risk then that the money could end up supporting startups that don't really align with the social impact goals of the initiative?
Exactly. And there's also the question of accountability.
Okay.
How will they track the impact of these investments?
Right.
Both in terms of financial returns and their contribution to a more diverse and inclusive tech sector.
Yeah.
Transparency is really key. If they want to build trust and show that this isn't just about making money, but about creating meaningful change.
In our sources, Ketso Gordon, the CEO of the South African SME Fund, states, South Africa has no shortage of brilliant minds, and this fund will ensure that more of them have the resources they need to succeed. Our goal is to make sure these companies have a fair chance at success and scale in the local and global markets. So while this is really inspiring,
Yeah,
are we really looking at a level playing field here?
right.
Is seed funding at this scale enough to truly level the playing field?
Yeah.
Or are there deeper issues within the South African economy that need to be addressed?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
I mean, seed funding is essential, but it's only one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
We need to look at the bigger picture, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
What about access to mentorship networks and markets?
Yeah.
Are there systemic barriers that are preventing certain entrepreneurs from getting to these crucial resources?
Yeah.
Even if they have the funding?
I'm also wondering about the role of private capital.
Okay.
So this government-led initiative is a great start.
Yeah.
But relying only on public funding isn't a long-term solution.
Right.
How do we get more private investment in South African tech startups?
Right.
Especially those led by entrepreneurs from these underrepresented groups.
Well, that's a discussion we definitely need to have.
Yeah.
I mean, there are models out there, things like tax breaks or matching funds that could encourage private investors to, take more risks on early stage companies.
Yeah.
But it also requires like a shift in mindset. Investors need to be convinced that backing diverse founders isn't just like a social good.
Yeah.
It's good business.
Right.
And that takes data success stories and a real effort to challenge those unconscious biases that often shape investment decisions.
So there's a lot riding on this R300-Million fund.
Absolutely.
It could be a game changer.
Yeah.
But only if it's implemented strategically.
Right.
And with a clear understanding of just how complex the South African tech landscape is.
Absolutely. And we can't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
How will they measure success?
Right.
What happens if some of these startups fail?
Yeah.
And how will they ensure that the benefits of this investment are shared fairly across all parts of society?
It's a big task.
These are the conversations we need to have if we want this initiative to have a real transformative impact.
In our sources, Patrick Crappy.
Okay.
He's the acting CEO of the Technology Innovation Agency.
Yeah.
He really emphasizes the government's role in nurturing these innovation ecosystems.
Okay.
And he specifically mentioned this fund-to-funds model as a way to really amplify support.
Okay.
But how do we make sure that that support doesn't get diluted as it flows through all these different channels?
Exactly.
And how do we make sure that the people who are making those final investment decisions
Right.
are really representative of all these diverse communities that they're trying to serve?
Well, that's where governance and transparency come in.
Yeah.
We need to see clear guidelines for how these sub-funds will be chosen and monitored.
Right.
And there needs to be a way to hold them accountable for their investment decisions and, their commitment to those big goals of the initiative.
It's almost like we're watching a venture capital experiment unfold.
It is.
The stakes are high.
Yeah.
The whole world is watching.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
This isn't just about South Africa.
Right.
This could be a model for other regions who are trying to boost innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right.
But also, dealing with these issues of equity and inclusion.
So what are some of the pitfalls of this fund-to-funds model that we should be aware of?
Sure.
Are there examples from other countries or other sectors where this approach has worked really well or where it's totally failed?
Yeah, there are definitely lessons to be learned from both the successes and the failures.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges with the fund-to-funds is making sure everyone is on the same page.
Okay.
Making sure that the overall goals of the initiative match the investment strategies of all those individual sub-funds.
Got it.
You don't want a situation where, the big goal is to support early-stage companies.
Yeah.
But then one of the sub-funds is mainly focused on later-stage investments.
Yeah.
With, a much higher risk tolerance.
So you could have a mismatch between where the money's going and where it was supposed to go.
Exactly, and that's happened.
Okay. Are there any specific examples of that?
Yeah, there have been cases, especially with impact investing,
Okay.
where a fund of funds has struggled to balance those financial returns with the social impact goals. Sometimes the sub-funds they pick end up putting profit ahead of impact, or they have different ideas about what impact even means.
Yeah.
And that can lead to a situation where the whole initiative, fails to achieve its social or environmental goals.
That's a bit concerning.
It is.
How do we prevent that from happening here?
Yeah.
Is it just about doing your homework when picking the sub-funds, or are there other ways to address this potential conflict?
Well, due diligence is crucial, of course.
Right.
They need to really vet the track record of each sub-fund. Not just in terms of how much money they've made,
Right.
but also their commitment to impact investing and whether they align with the specific transformation goals of this whole initiative.
Okay.
But beyond that, it's important to have clear ways to measure both the financial and social impact
Yeah.
and to hold those sub-funds accountable.
Yeah.
Make them report on those metrics regularly.
So it's not enough to just trust that they'll do the right thing.
No, definitely not.
There needs to be a system of checks and balances to make sure that the money's being used the way it's supposed to be used.
Exactly, and transparency is key.
Yeah.
The public has a right to know where this money is going,
Right.
how it's being used, and what kind of impact it's having. This isn't just like a financial investment.
Right.
This is an investment in the future of South Africa's tech sector.
And in society more broadly.
Exactly.
In the ENCA interview, Ketso Gordon also acknowledges the risk in seed funding. He says, it's really high risk, it's potentially high reward, but, you never know until it's done. This makes me think about how they're planning to measure the success of this whole initiative.
Right.
Is it just about how many startups get funded? Or are there other more nuanced metrics they'll be looking at?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
If they really want to create a thriving and inclusive tech ecosystem, they can't just focus on those short-term financial gains.
Okay.
They need to look at things like job creation, development of new technology, the growth of diverse leadership within the tech sector,
Right.
and the overall contribution of these startups to solving social and economic challenges in South Africa.
It sounds like they're trying to create this ripple effect.
Yes.
Where the impact of this investment goes way beyond the individual startups that receive funding.
It's about creating a cycle where success leads to more success, where the growth of these startups attracts more talent and investment, and where the benefits of innovation are shared more equally across all parts of society. But that requires long-term vision and a real commitment to measuring impact in a holistic and meaningful way.
And how do they balance that long-term vision with the pressure to show results?
Yeah.
Especially because public funds are involved.
Right.
I imagine there will be a lot of scrutiny.
Oh, for sure.
People will want to see proof that it's working.
Absolutely. That's a challenge they'll definitely have to navigate.
Yeah.
They need to be open about their goals, their timelines, their metrics for success.
Yeah.
But also recognize that some of the biggest impacts of this investment might not be obvious for years, maybe even decades down the line.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
No.
It's about being strategic.
Right.
Transparent and accountable for every rand that's invested.
Exactly.
We'll be looking into these issues more in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned for more.
I'm looking forward to getting into those details.
Yeah.
And talking about what the long-term impact of this could be, not just for South Africa, but maybe even for the global tech landscape.
It's a story that's just beginning.
It is.
And I think it's one that we'll all be watching closely in the years to come.
Sure.
We've been talking about this R300-Million seed fund in South Africa.
Right.
And one thing that really stood out to me from our sources was the involvement of E-Squared Investments.
Okay.
They're known for backing ventures that generate financial returns, but also positive social or environmental impact.
Yeah.
So this isn't just about making money, it's about making a difference.
Exactly. E-Squared being there shows a real commitment to impact investing.
Yeah.
Which is a growing trend, all over the world. Investors are really looking for opportunities that match their values.
Okay.
So it's about creating a win-win.
Yeah.
Businesses do well and society benefits.
Right. But how do we make sure those goals are balanced properly?
Yeah, that's the question.
Is it even possible to, make the most money without compromising those social impact goals?
That's what we need to figure out.
Yeah. I'm curious about how they plan to measure the impact part.
Right.
Are we talking about creating jobs in specific communities?
Yeah.
Are they targeting investments in startups that tackle certain social or environmental issues?
Right.
Like, what does impact actually look like here?
Well, defining and measuring impact is super important.
Yeah.
But it's often overlooked in impact investing.
Right.
It's not enough to just have good intentions.
Yeah.
You need to have clear metrics.
Right.
And a system for tracking progress.
Yeah.
In this case, it would be interesting to see how they define impact in relation to the transformation goals.
Yeah.
Are they looking at things like the number of jobs created for people from disadvantaged backgrounds?
Yeah.
Or the percentage of funding that goes to startups led by women or people of color?
Right.
Those are the kinds of metrics that would really show a commitment to a more inclusive tech sector.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of this big fund and the potential for innovation.
Right.
But we have to keep those social impact goals at the forefront.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's just another venture capital play with a nice sounding story.
I agree. Transparency is key.
Yeah.
They need to be clear about their impact metrics.
Okay.
And report on their progress regularly.
Right.
That's how you build trust with the public. And it also provides valuable insights for other initiatives
Right.
that are looking to use impact investing.
It also brings us back to that ripple effect.
Yeah.
If they can show that impact investing can be profitable
Right.
and socially responsible, it could inspire other investors
Absolutely.
in South Africa and globally to do the same.
Yeah.
But are there any risks with focusing on impact investing? Could it limit the pool of startups that qualify for funding?
Right?
Or make it harder to attract investors who are mostly interested in making money?
There's always a risk that focusing on impact could narrow the options.
Yeah.
But I think that's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
There are tons of startups out there tackling social and environmental problems
Right.
in new and innovative ways, and those companies are attracting investment.
Right.
The key is finding the right balance
Yeah.
between impact and financial return.
Right.
It's not one or the other. It's about finding opportunities where you can achieve both.
So it's about changing how we think about what makes a good investment.
Yes.
It's not just about making the most money for shareholders.
Right.
It's about creating value for everyone.
Exactly. And I think that's where the investment world is headed.
Yeah.
Investors are realizing that the most successful businesses are the ones that are solving real problems and making a positive impact on the world.
Makes you wonder if this model could work in other sectors.
Yeah.
Or even other countries.
It could.
Imagine if governments around the world prioritized impact investing as part of their economic plans.
It would be a game changer.
I'm really interested to hear more about your thoughts on the fund-to-funds model
Okay.
and its potential for success here. What are some of the things that will determine if this approach actually works?
Well, I think one of the most important factors is choosing the right sub-funds.
Okay.
They need to pick fund managers who have a good track record of both making money and being committed to impact investing.
Okay.
They also need to make sure the sub-fund strategies match the overall goals of the initiative.
So it's not just about finding fund managers who are good at making money.
No.
It's about finding ones who share the same values and vision
Exactly.
for a more inclusive and impactful tech sector.
And that takes a deep understanding of South Africa.
Yeah.
The challenges that entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds face,
Right.
and the opportunities for creating positive social impact through tech.
In our sources, Patrick Crappy mentions that this fund will be used to support startups,
Yeah.
but also SMMEs. I'm wondering why they included SMMEs.
Right.
Wouldn't it make more sense to just focus on high-growth tech startups? The ones that are more likely to make the big returns that investors want?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It might seem strange to include SMMEs,
Right.
because they're often seen as less innovative and less scalable than startups.
Okay.
But I think there are a couple of reasons.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, SMMEs are really important to the South African economy.
Okay.
They create a lot of jobs
Right.
and contribute a lot to the GDP. Supporting SMMEs can directly impact poverty reduction and job creation, which are top priorities for the South African government.
So it's about recognizing how important SMMEs are
Yes.
to the whole economy,
Right.
even if they're not the ones creating the latest tech.
Exactly. And second, there's a growing understanding that innovation isn't just about high-growth tech startups.
Okay.
SMMEs can also be innovative, especially in areas like local manufacturing, agriculture, and services.
Right.
Supporting SMMEs can help diversify the economy and create new opportunities for growth.
So it's about broadening what we think of as innovation
Yes.
to include those businesses that are solving problems
Right.
and creating value locally,
Exactly.
even if they're not going to be the next Google.
Right. And I think this fits with the whole focus on transformation in this initiative.
Okay.
Supporting SMMEs, especially those owned by people from disadvantaged backgrounds, can help create a more inclusive economy where everyone has a chance.
That makes sense. But it raises questions about how they'll decide how much funding goes to startups versus SMMEs.
Yeah.
Will there be separate funds for each?
Right.
Or will they compete for the same money?
Right.
And how will they make sure both groups get what they need to succeed?
Those are all good questions.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they structure the fund and what criteria they use to allocate the money. They'll need to find a balance between supporting high-growth startups, which can make a lot of money,
Yeah.
and supporting SMMEs, which are vital for jobs and social stability.
It's a touch balancing act.
It is.
But I think it's good that they're thinking about economic development in a holistic way
I agree.
and recognizing the role of both startups and SMMEs
Yes.
in creating a more prosperous and inclusive society.
It's a shift away from that traditional focus on high-tech innovation
Right.
as the only driver of economic growth.
Yeah.
This initiative acknowledges the importance of supporting a variety of businesses, from those cutting-edge tech startups to small local businesses.
And it highlights how interconnected the economy is.
Yeah.
You can't have a successful tech sector
Right.
without strong SMMEs providing goods and services, creating jobs, and
Absolutely.
supporting communities.
It reminds us that economic development isn't just about GDP growth.
Yeah.
It's about giving everyone a chance to participate
Right.
and benefit from a growing economy.
It brings us back to that question of how they'll measure the success of this initiative.
Right.
What are the metrics they'll use
Yeah.
to determine if this investment has really made a difference? Is it just about financial returns,
Okay.
or are they looking at broader social and economic indicators?
Well, I think they'll need to look at a bunch of different things.
Okay.
Financial returns are important, of course.
Yeah.
They need to show that this investment can make money
Right.
for the South African people.
Yeah.
But they'll also need to measure things like job creation,
Okay.
how much SMMEs are growing, the development of new technologies,
Right.
and how much these businesses are contributing to solving social and economic problems.
So it's not just about counting how many startups get funding
No.
or how much money they raise.
Right.
It's about understanding the real impact
Yes.
on people's lives
That's a fact.
and the health of the economy.
And it's about making sure the benefits are shared fairly
Yeah.
across all parts of society, especially those who haven't had the same opportunities in the past.
Big job, but an important one.
Yeah,
It will be fascinating to see how this plays out in the coming years.
I agree.
It could be a model for other countries
It could.
who are looking to boost innovation and economic growth
Right.
while also tackling social equity and inclusion.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see how this initiative changes
Yeah.
as the South African tech sector grows.
Hmm.
There will be challenges,
Yeah.
but I'm optimistic they can overcome them
Okay.
and create a real impact.
I'd love to hear more about those potential challenges
Yeah.
and how they might tackle 'em.
Okay.
But for now, let's take a quick break,
Sounds good.
and we'll get into those details in the last part of our deep dive. All right, so we've talked a lot about this R300-Million seed fund in South Africa.
We have.
You know, from those big goals of boosting innovation and transformation
Yeah.
to the challenges of using this fund-to-funds model
Right.
and making sure that impact investing doesn't hurt financial returns.
That's a lot to think about.
It is. So as we wrap things up, let's
Okay.
bring it back to those aspiring tech entrepreneurs in South Africa.
Yeah.
What does this all actually mean for them?
Well, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this fund could be a lifeline
Okay.
for those early stage startups that often struggle to get funding,
Right.
especially the ones led by entrepreneurs from historically disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's a sign that South Africa is serious about building a strong and inclusive tech scene.
We talked about how important seed funding is.
Right.
But what are some of the other challenges
Okay.
that these startups might face?
Sure.
Even with this new money.
Well, access to mentorship and networks is so important for any startup.
Yeah.
But it can be tough
Okay.
for entrepreneurs who are new to the tech world
Right.
or who come from underrepresented communities.
Yeah.
They might not have the same connections
Right.
or chances to connect with mentors, investors, and potential partners.
So it's not just about the money.
No.
It's about building a support system
Yes.
that helps these entrepreneurs succeed.
Exactly.
So how do we do that?
Well, there are some great organizations out there already,
Okay.
like Silicon Cape and the Alan Gree Orbis Foundation.
Yeah.
But we can always do more.
Right.
And any new programs should be created
Yeah.
with the entrepreneurs themselves
Okay.
so they really address the needs of the community.
It's not about forcing solutions on them.
Right.
It's about giving them a space to connect,
Exactly.
share their experiences,
Yeah.
and find the resources and support they need.
Another challenge is access to markets,
Okay.
especially for startups with global goals.
Yeah.
The South African market is small,
Right.
so growing can be tough.
Okay.
They need to reach customers outside of South Africa.
Right.
And that means understanding different cultures, rules, and ways of doing business.
That's hard for any startup, but maybe even more so in emerging markets,
Right.
where infrastructure and access to global networks might be limited.
So are there ways to help them?
Yeah, how can we bridge that gap?
The government or other organizations could step in,
Oh.
help connect these startups with international markets and investors.
So.
Things like trade missions, incubator programs with a global focus.
Okay.
Even connecting startups with mentors who have international experience can
Yeah.
make a big difference.
Good point.
And we have examples of South African tech companies that have gone global,
Oh yeah, like who?
like Yoko and Sweep South.
Right.
They can be examples for others.
We often hear about the successes.
We do.
But what about the failures?
Yeah, that's important too.
What can entrepreneurs learn from those who didn't make it?
Right.
Is there a culture of, seeing failure as a learning opportunity?
Though failure is just part of being an entrepreneur.
It is.
The key is to create an environment where it's not seen as a bad thing,
Yeah.
but as a chance to learn. And I think that mindset is growing in South Africa.
That's good to hear.
There are more events and places
Yeah.
where entrepreneurs can share their stories,
Right.
both good and bad,
Yeah,
and
right.
learn from each other.
It's about being okay with taking risks.
Yes.
Trying new things.
Right.
And knowing that if it doesn't work out,
Yeah.
you can try again.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of spirit
Yeah.
that will drive innovation and growth.
In South Africa and everywhere.
This R300-Million fund is a step,
Yeah.
but it's just the start.
Right.
We all need to work together.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, the whole community,
Yep.
to build a thriving tech scene that helps everyone.
So to all those aspiring tech entrepreneurs out there,
Yeah.
keep dreaming big, keep innovating,
Keep learning,
and don't be afraid to fail.
because that's how we learn and grow.
And who knows,
Yeah.
maybe your startup will be the next big thing
Well, it could be.
to put South Africa on the map.
And to the investors, mentors, and policymakers, remember that. Supporting these startups.
Especially the ones led by entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups.
Exactly. It's not just charity.
Yeah.
It's a smart investment.
Right.
These entrepreneurs have the potential to change things,
Right.
disrupt industries, and create economic growth that benefits everyone.
Diversity isn't just a bonus.
No,
It's essential for innovation
absolutely.
and being competitive globally.
This deep dive has been really interesting.
It has.
We've explored the challenges and opportunities in South Africa's tech sector.
Yeah, it's a story that's still unfolding.
It is, and we don't know the ending.
Right.
But with the right support, investments, and mindset,
Yeah.
I think South Africa can become a global tech leader
Wow.
and a model for inclusive growth.
That's it for our deep dive on South Africa's R300-Million Tech Startup Seed Fund.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you learned something about this initiative, its potential impact,
Yeah.
and the questions we need to be asking.
As the story continues.
Thanks for joining us, Innovators.